This conversation begins in the book of Psalms, chapter 51, verse 5. Sin is a drug. Yes, sin is a drug. Now, I'm not asking you the question. I'm telling you, sin is a drug. The prophet Isaiah says it like this: Jesus was wounded for our transgressions. He was wounded for all of the things that you and I would do. He knew we'd do them. And so what he did was he knew we'd break every law. He knew we'd break every commandment, basically. And so what Jesus did was Jesus put some prayers up. Jesus went and gave us some forgiveness in advance, if you will, before the Father. He says, Donnie, I know what you're going to do, so I'm going to lay up some timber for you in heaven that God will forgive you. I'm going to lay my life down as a substitute for your destitute. I'm going to rescue you right now in this season of your life. Even before you're born, I'm doing some things for you on your behalf. That's how awesome Jesus is. And then the Bible tells us, and he was bruised for our iniquities. Yes. He says, all that wickedness that you're going to do, all that stuff you're going to get yourself into, messing with things you shouldn't mess with, dipping and tipping in things you shouldn't be dipping and tipping in. Jesus said, I see it, and I'm going to repent on your behalf. I'm going to lay up some timber on your behalf for the wickedness that you will get yourself into. We get ourselves into some wicked stuff. I mean, just think about it. Inside of your mind, oh my gosh, I'd hate to record what's inside of your mind. I'd hate for you to see what's inside of my mind. We think some crazy things. Jesus said, I'm going to forgive you for all of that. I'm going to make sure that the Father understands that, hey, I'm going to give up my life so that Donnie can have a life, and that Donnie would have an opportunity to be in eternity with the Father. That's how awesome Jesus is. Jesus knew that we would give ourselves to drugs and alcohol, to lust, to sex, to money. He knew that we would let this fleshly body really feed us more than we allow his spiritual word to feed us. And so he went on our behalf to cancel out our debt that we owe, that we could not pay. He paid it for us. God supplied a substitute for our destitute, and his name is Jesus Christ, his only begotten Son. Something you and I couldn't do for ourselves. Psalms 51 and 5 says it like this, verse 5. Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me. We all came into this world with what I call a strike against us. All of us, each and every one of us. We were all tainted. We were all flawed by the poison I call sin. The moment we took a breath, we breathe sin in. The moment we took a breath. Repeat after me, I was born this way. That's right. We were born this way. It wasn't something we did to ourselves. It was the fall of mankind in the garden. We took on that DNA sin at that particular moment. And so we all have that. So we're born with one strike against us, if you will. I want to tell you something. Sin, drugs and alcohol, lust and sex. I like to team them up and call them triplets, especially sin, drug, and alcohols, because if you think about it, I mean, let's be honest, they are some of the most pleasurable things in the world to enjoy. Being transparent. I mean, come on. There is no party until sin, drug, and alcohol shows up. Every party I've ever been in, and every party you've ever been in, it's been a combination of all three: sin, drugs, and alcohol. I mean, the party don't get started till they arrive. I mean, sin looks good. Sin tastes good. Sin smells good. Drugs taste good. Alcohol tastes good. Alcohol looks good. That bottle, pretty bottle. Come on. This stuff, I'm telling you, this stuff is damaging to our body, damaging to our life, damaging to our eternity, if you will. But we still love it. We still like it. I mean, sin and alcohol and drugs, it might be bad for us, but guess what? It so do feel good to us. Just being transparent. Being transparent. And that's why you have a whole bunch of what I call addicts walking around. Because people are addicted. Now, I'm not hating on drinking a little bit. I mean, Paul tells Timothy, hey, a little wine is good for your belly. I'm not against it. I'm just saying I'm against the abuse of it. I'm totally against that. And so if you're in an abusive relationship with drugs and alcohol, you need to make sure you get help quick. Sin is a peculiar thing when you think about it. I mean, when you look at what drugs and alcohol are doing to families, I mean, sin will convince you to leave your family. That's a drug and alcohol. That's a drink, something coming out of a bottle, a joint that you're smoking or a pill that you're popping. will convince you to leave your family because you become so addicted to it. Now Jesus went before us to kind of set the template, if you will, the tempo that, hey, you don't need this stuff, you just need me. But we're fighting, this fleshly body will fight you all day long, trying to make you hold on to the vices in life that it wants to control you with versus you just simply enjoying your life. But sin will make you lose your job. That's what sin will do. Sin will make you, watch this, it will make you hate your parents. It will make you hate your family. Sin will make you hate yourself. Sin will make you drugs and alcohol. I call them triplets, so keep it. When I say one, I'm talking about the other because let's not get it twisted now. Sin works for no one. No, sin, alcohol and drugs are a slave to sin. Because when you think about it, sin's a bully. And sin wants its way. And so sin will take what it wants. It'll rape somebody. Sin will kill somebody. Sin will. Sin will make you hit sin will make you hit the person you say you love. Sin will make you commit adultery against the person you say you love. That's what sin will do. Sin is so evil. Really, when you think about it, sin is the root of all evil. Sin is. So sin will make you try to commit suicide. It will make you rob your own children of their destiny if you don't watch out. It'll make you forfeit your life and your opportunities in life. That's how bad sin is. Sin will make you think that you're invincible. It will make you think that you're on top of the world. Have you ever noticed people who get drunk and high, how they start just talking and just tell you everything about themselves? That's what sin does. Sin makes you open up and just go crazy with your mouth, just talking and chattering and saying everything, boasting about things that you can do and you should do. That's what sin does. Sin makes you talk outside of your mind. Sin makes you lose your mind. Sin makes you think your poo-poo don't smell. That's how sin is. That's how alcohol and drugs will take you on a high. It will take you up on a high and make you feel like you're on top of the world. But when you come down off of that sin, off of that drugs, off of that alcohol, guess what? It will drop you hard on top of your head. And like a crazy person, you go back and pick up that bottle, you go back and pick up that joint or whatever you're smoking or popping, you go back and pick it back up again because the high felt so good, the fall didn't bother you. You were looking for the high once you picked yourself back up. That's how bad sin, that's how bad drugs, that's how bad alcohol is. When you talk about this body is already, the DNA in this body is already full of sin. The Bible tells we were born into sin. Born shaping in iniquity, we're born into sin. Then you go put two other chemicals in this tainted vessel. What are you doing? You need your full capacity in this world to deal with sin alone. You don't need to put something else inside this vessel. Nothing but praise and worship. But then we go give ourselves to drugs and to alcohol as if that's going to really soothe or soothe down a problem or help us with the issue. It's not. It's masking what's really happening behind the scene. Deal with the issues. Come on. Drugs, sin, alcohol have teamed up and they will make you, come on. It's a powerful poison that will make you lose your family. Many have already done that. It will destroy your family. It will destroy your home. It will destroy your marriage. I'm telling you, sin is truly the root of all evil. The majority of our issues, if you think about it, can be addressed. The majority of them can be addressed and resolved by having a sober mind and a calm head. Listen to this story about me when I was younger that talks about a calm head, a sober mind. My father, bless his heart, a disciplined man, a structured man, a man of accountability, a man with a big heart, a man who loved all of his children, all 12 of us. Loved my mother. My father was an awesome man. One summer day, I think I was 15 years old, and my cousin and I, Hank always got me in trouble. My cousin and I, Hank, I'm just teasing, I got myself in trouble. We were at my house, and my father normally comes home for lunch at the same time every day if he comes home. And so if he doesn't come home at a certain time, we know he's not coming home. This particular day, we got bold enough to smoke a joint in my father's house. We sitting there rolling some weed. I said it, yeah, we rolling some weed, and we smoking some joints. And an hour later, my father shows up. Have you ever seen those movies or I think it's a show called SWAT, police, cops, bad boys, what you gonna do? You ever seen those shows on TV? How the police just rides up real fast and just catches you by surprise. That's what my father did. I swore he had a camera somewhere in the house, but he drove up real fast. He jumped out of his car. He ran into the house and he ran to the restroom. So I realized what was happening. He was in a tight. He needed to use the restroom. But he ran through real fast, and he came in so fast that Hank and I, we were just sitting there frozen. We didn't move because we knew the marijuana was all up in the building. And so we didn't move. We sit there frozen. So when you see the movie Frozen, we did that movie first. We did that movie first, me and my cousin Hank, sitting in the living room in my house. We also did the movie Don't Breathe because we weren't breathing. We were just sitting there like statues. My father relieved himself and came back through and walked back through, going to the kitchen to get him something to eat. And he said, hey, Bud, because they called my cousin Hank Bud. And Hank spoke to him, but my father didn't say one word to me. My father walked into the kitchen, got himself something to eat. And then he washed his hands, went back and washed his hands, and he left the house. And I just took a big, deep, a sigh of breath, and Hank, we both just kind of relaxed, and we both started breathing, and we looked at each other like, whoa, we got past that. He didn't say nothing, whoa. And then, watch this. As just as I was trying to breathe more, he opened the back door and said, Donnie, come here. My heart stopped. My heart had already frozen. It was frozen, now it stopped. And I just looked at Hank, and I think that Hank understood my glance was, call 911 and sit in the corner because I'm not going to make it. So I go into the garage, and my father, I know he's going to just knock me out. Don't get me wrong, and rightfully so, it's his house. The one thing you shouldn't do is ever disrespect a man's house. And I knew I had done that. First time I ever done something in my house like this ever. I mean, I didn't drink in my house, didn't smoke in my house, whatever I was doing to be naughty, I didn't do it at home. But this day, I was smelling myself. So anyway, I go in the garage, and I realized my father brought me into this world. He could take me out. So I was getting ready to go out. But my father did something that really caught me off guard. He spoke to me and he said, Donnie, he said, let me tell you something. He said, son, I smoked that stuff. I tried it. He said, but it made my head hurt. He said, so I would advise you, don't do anything that makes your head hurt. He turned around, he got in his car, and he took off. I came back in the house, and I told Hank what he told me, because my father always spoke to me in parables. He didn't have a lengthy conversation. He would tell me something, and it was my job to discern it, to break it down, and to absorb it, and to never do it again. And so I told Hank, get that stuff up. We must have got that stuff up so fast. I mean, we wrapped all that stuff up. Never smoked in my father's house again. I did. Never smoked in my father's house again. My father taught me three things that day. Several things, but definitely three things. One was, do not ever, Donnie, never disrespect your body. That's what he was telling me. You need to be in your right mind at all times. Never disrespect your body. And then he told me, never, with that parable now, I'm telling you what, I had to break it down myself. Never disrespect my home. Never. Never disrespect any man's home. That's what I got from that. And the third thing I got from that was never disrespect my legacy. My father was a proud man. He had built his own home. He had 12 children, and he took care of all of us. And so and I'm the oldest boy, so I'm the oldest son. And so my father wanted to make it very clear that I was the template, if you will, for the rest of my brothers and sisters. My father was telling me, he always taught me how I had to be the example. I couldn't get in trouble because look what was coming behind me. I had to be a man real fast. I had to be responsible and accountable real fast. That's what my father taught me. And so I took his words to heart. I kept that in me. Don't ever do anything that makes your head hurt. But watch this. I love my uncles, and my uncles were tough. They were suave. My uncles had a little swag about themselves, and they drank and they smoked and they did whatever they wanted to do. My father was kind of just a square man, if you ask me. He was just kind of square, and he was a bad dressing man. He was cool, but he didn't do what they did. They had a little swagger, because see, my father didn't drink and my mother didn't drink, so I like that little crowd over there across town. My cousins and my uncles, and so. But I realized that at 3 a.m. in the morning, at 2 a.m. in the morning, my father would get these phone calls on the weekend. And I could hear my mother in the background, why you gotta go? Why don't they call somebody else? My uncles or my cousin had got in trouble, and they were calling my father to come get them out of trouble. I grew up real fast, and I realized that my father had the real swagger. I realized that my father was not only had swagger, he had accountability and he was responsible. I realized my father didn't waste his money chasing foolish things. He just taught me by example. He never told me I couldn't do this or do that. He just did. And so I just gleaned from him. I'm so proud of my father because with 12 children, if he would have been a drunkard, if he would have been drinking and using drugs, oh my gosh, where would my family have been? I am so grateful. That's what Jesus did. Jesus didn't drink and smoke. And see where we are now? That's where we should. Jesus was setting the template, the blueprint, laying it down for us so we could follow it, so we could keep our lives wholesome, that we could value ourselves and not hurt ourselves. We had enough sin already in us. We didn't need to put anything else in us. That's what Jesus did for us. He laid his life down for us. My father was giving me so many great examples of what to do and what a man was really about. Yeah, my father, I seen him now. When you look back, my father was what I call the first responder. To all of my uncles and families and those issues that they had that they couldn't take care of themselves, my father would do it for them. He was serving those who couldn't survive themselves. And then I looked at my father and I said, you know what? He's also a designated driver because he would go and drive them home every single time. Yeah, they might have had the swagger and had the little coolness, but my father, I would take him any day over anyone. A bad man. See, he kept himself, he suppressed all the things he could be doing to raise his family, to stay intact. That's what Jesus did. You don't think Jesus didn't like some of the stuff in this world, but Jesus suppressed that stuff. Jesus kept himself together because you can become addicted. I realized that my uncles them had what I call an addiction gene, and I didn't want that gene. Well, I didn't know if I had that gene, so I didn't want to try stuff. Yeah, I would do things in college like most kids would, but I never gave my heart to stuff. I kept my heart into my father's parables. Donnie, don't ever smoke anything, don't ever drink anything that makes your head hurt. We need to have a cool head about ourselves, a calm head, a calm spirit. In this world, think about it. We're all sheltering in right now. We're all going through something. We got cabin fever right now. Do you realize that sin is sheltered in with you because sin is inside of you? And so when you look at it from that perspective, watch this. We are the vehicle that sin uses for transportation. So sin can't go nowhere unless you take it. And so sin wants to bust out. And people are starting to get out now. Look at the numbers though, globally, before we get out and see how they start increasing, because they were decreasing. Roughly 585,000 people die every year globally as a result of drug usage. And that's happening probably quite a bit now because people are sheltered in. 3 million deaths are caused by harmful use of alcohol every year. In the United States alone, there will be a $44 billion hit just because of collisions from vehicles crashing into each other. That's every year, $44 billion. Think about that. That's a big number. Here are some devastating numbers. Americans make up 10% of the world's population, but we use 90% of prescription drugs. We are 10% of the world's global population, but we use 90% of all the prescribed medication. We have a problem. That's an alarming number. Think about that for a moment. We have become addicted to trying to get a quick fix for our pains, for our aches. That's what we become. Approximately 80% of the global opioid supply, this is these pain pills, they're consumed in America. 80%. I mean, approximately 191 million opioid pain prescriptions were written in the United States alone. There's only 350 million people in the good old USA, and there was 191 prescriptions wrote last year. CVS and Walgreens, when you look at them from now, look at them just a little bit differently. Don't get me wrong, we need our prescription medication. I'm not hating on that. But they look like they're sitting on every corner opposite of each other, CVS and Walgreens. And just think about this for a moment. They're the modern day drug houses. That's what they are. That's what we become. When you look at America and Western Europe and Canada, you combine those three countries together, America, Western Europe, and Canada, consumes 95% of all the opioids globally. That means there's only 5% opioids left for the rest of the world. 3 major countries, Canada, United States, and Western Europe, uses most of the opioids. Pain will make you take some drugs. Pain will make you drink some alcohol. Pain will make you do all this to get rid of this discomfort that's in your body. And I'm gonna tell you right now, you might take it for a moment, think you can get rid of it, but then the next moment comes, and then the next moment comes, and then the next moment comes. Before you know it, everything is a moment for you as you drink and take pills, as you drink and smoke dope. Everything is full of trying to release it, and really and truly you never can. Because it's something you're trying to suppress with. Those who use drugs are literally walking around what I call as functioning addicts. That's what's happening to our world. Sin wants to take someone out. Do you realize that? I mean, a football coach would tell some of his players, on the next play, go take that player out. That's what sin wants to do. Yeah, sin has been sheltered in for so long. Sin wants to go out and just really crash into somebody. Sin wants to wipe somebody out. It doesn't care that this man has 6 children and his wife is pregnant at home. Sin wants to run him off the road because you have been into a drunken stupor and sin is using you. That's what sin does. Sin wants to hurt people. Sin likes to hurt people who love people. Sin wants to hurt someone so badly, it uses you to get its point across. Sin is a bully, I told you, that uses drug and alcohol to do most of his dirty work. Romans 7:8 tells us like this. Paul tells us, for I know that in this fleshly body dwelleth no good thing. So if there's nothing, watch this, if there's nothing good in this fleshly body already, why would you pour more of nothing into nothing? I mean, our job is to fill ourselves with something so that we can build ourselves up versus tearing ourselves down. The book of Isaiah says it like this in 5:14, and I'm closing. Therefore, hell hath enlarged herself, hell, and opened her mouth without measures. The Bible is telling us that hell is growing, it's expanding. Well, I'm thinking we've got so much technology now, we've got so much information about the Word of God. Hell should be really shrinking, right? Now, we've got too much stuff to pleasure ourselves with. So the Bible said hell is enlarging itself. Well, if it's enlarging itself, it means it's really planning for more people to go there. I'm telling you, listen to my Father's parable so you can miss hell and you can really see yourself in heaven because it's much needed. We are walking around as addicted. We're walking around addicted. And it's not just to drugs. I mean, come on, it could be food, it could be sex, it could be lust, it could be money. We have an addiction as a world, as a society. My father says it best. Don't do anything that makes your head hurt. If you could tell your child anything, please tell them. It's okay to go to a party and have a great time. Go have a good time, but don't mess with drugs and alcohol. Come home safely. Enjoy your life without having all that stuff in your body. Don't give in to vices in the midst of your crisis. I pray that you've heard this word. I pray that I've gotten through to you. Don't do anything that clouds your judgment. Don't do anything that makes your head hurt. Don't forget Romans 10:9. Don't forget Romans 10:9. Confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God has raised him from the dead and therefore you too shall be saved. God is God. Remember, sin is a drug. But Jesus has already built up some timber for you in heaven. He's already forgiven you. You just have to forgive yourself. Be blessed.